In a gentle way, you can shake the world, a wise man once said, and the world was bewildered. How can, in a gentle way, we lead movements and create revolutions? Is it even possible? What the world could not envision, the great man demonstrated. The great man we are speaking about is our beloved Bapu, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation. And the way he demonstrated his principles is evident in the way he led India to a new dawn of freedom. A very good morning to everyone who has logged into this virtual session of Class 10 History and Civics. It's my privilege to be your facilitator for this session. The chapter that we are going to deal with today is Mahatma Gandhi and the National Movement. It's a very important chapter, and before we begin this, I request you to kindly have a book and a pen with you to make note of all the salient points. Now, this chapter is very important for you for two reasons. One, it is impossible to visualize the study of Indian history without studying the role of Mahatma Gandhi. It becomes meaningless and futile. Secondly, from the academic point of view, this is a very important chapter. Take any paper of any year of class 10 ICSE history, and you will see that this chapter will be there for a minimum of 14 marks. 10 marks in part 2 and a minimum of 4 marks in part 1. So it has a twofold importance. So we will begin this lesson now by seeing what the world felt about Gandhi. Albert Einstein said, generations to come will scarce believe that such a one as ever in flesh and blood walked upon this earth. What does that mean? It's the greatest compliment given to Gandhi. He meant that it is impossible to believe that any mortal could believe and behave like how Gandhi did. His principles were so high, his ideals so prevalent that the world looked upon him as a man of the millennium also, a man who it is difficult to believe ever walked upon this earth. So now we will begin the lesson by understanding how the Indian freedom movement was divided into phases. Now, the national movement, as you all know, began initially with the 1857 revolt. At that time, there was no concept of a nation. Nationalism grew after 1857, and more so after the birth of the Congress. Once the Congress was established, the first phase was known as the early nationalist phase. It began in the year 1885 and went on till 1907. This was led by people who were also called as the moderates because they were very moderate in their approach. They believed in constitutional methods, and their aim or objective was self government under the British rule. That is, they did not hanker for freedom but just wanted to be a part of the British government. This phase, the early nationalists Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Surendranath Banerjee are some of the leaders. In 1907, it was very significant year for those of you who have already studied the history behind this chapter. 1907 was the year where Congress was split into two. The assertive phase began. Now, these were the leaders, Lal Bal Paltrayo, who led the movement. They believed in assertive methods to gain freedom. Their methods were Swadeshi, boycott, mass movement, revivalism, and their objective was not self government, it was Purna Swaraj or complete independence. The third phase is known as the Gandhian era, which began in the year 1915. Now, if you notice, the first two phases are named after the methods that the people use, the early nationalists or the assertive nationalists. The third phase is named after the person who led it. That itself is significant and shows how important Gandhi was in this freedom movement. Now we will move on to see how Gandhi came to India and what was his early life like. Now, because this is not part of your scope of syllabus, I would want you to just watch this video to understand the journey of the Mahatma. Live as if you were to die tomorrow and learn as if you were to live forever. Keeping up with this advice of Gandhi, now let us learn about him. Now, here is an overview of the chapter. This chapter is vast in any publication or any textbook that you follow, and there's a lot of information. But according to the scope of syllabus, this is what you need to learn from the examination point of view. So, now what is the scope of syllabus? The non cooperation movement, the first movement led by Gandhi, you need to understand the causes, the programs followed, why it was suspended, and what was the impact. Civil disobedience movement. You need to know the causes for the civil disobedience movement, the Dandi March, the Gandhi Irwin Pact, and the Second Roundtable Conference. Last but not the least, you need to understand why the Quit India movement happened and what is its significance. Three great movements led by Mahatma Gandhi. So, shall we begin with the first one, the non cooperation movement? Now, this is a picture of Gandhi giving a speech during this movement, 1920. Gandhi defined non-cooperation movement as a way of protesting in which one does not cooperate with the evildoer. Now, who does Gandhi refer to as the evildoer? The government at that time, the British government. So he said, agitation is not that you go and fight over there. You just don't cooperate. It's a more peaceful way of protesting. Now, why did this movement happen? What was the cause for this? What were the events that led to this movement? Now, let us just try to understand the causes of the non cooperation movement. There were three causes of the non cooperation movement. So, can we just see the causes of the non cooperation movement, please? The Khilafat movement, the Rowlatt Act, and the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. Three causes which led to this great movement. Let us now analyze each cause. The Khilafat movement. Now, what was the Khilafat movement? Before I begin with this, let me tell you that history cannot be studied in isolation, except actually the history of India, which was a colony, was directly connected to the fate of Britain. So, when we study Indian history, we also need to connect it to the world history and what was happening in the world at that particular time. So, why did the Khilafat movement begin? In the First World War, Turkey was defeated by Britain and her allies. So, once Turkey was defeated, the Sultan of Turkey was deprived of his power and authority. Now, the Sultan of Turkey was also the Caliph, the religious head of the Muslims. So, the Muslim population in India began an agitation and they called it the Khilafat movement against the occupation of Turkey by the Allies. Now, this agitation was led under the leadership of the Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. They demanded that the Sultan be put back in power, and this agitation also ran on the similar lines like non cooperation movement. So Gandhi felt this was a great opportunity for Hindu Muslim unity and also to strengthen the Indian freedom struggle. He decided to merge the two. Khilafat also meant not to cooperate with the British. Non cooperation also meant the same. So both the movements were merged. So the Khilafat movement was the first cause for the non cooperation movement. Let us move on to the second cause, the Rowlatt Act. Now, this act is also called as the Black Act. Why is it so? What was there in this act that people protested against it, and what compelled Gandhi to become part of the movement? Now, let us study it clause by clause. The first clause, arrest any person without a warrant. Now, what is a warrant? You already have studied this in civics. A warrant is when you give a reason to a person as to why he or she is being arrested. So the warrant tells you on what grounds you are being arrested. So when a person can be arrested without warrant, it is an arbitrary power which lets you arrest anybody. You don't even have to give them a reason for the arrest. What followed that was in-camera trial. What's an in-camera trial? It's a trial in which the media and the public are not allowed. So you don't get to know what happens in this trial. So the first thing is you arrest somebody without a warrant, and then you have an in-camera trial where nobody knows how the proceedings went. The third clause, restrictions on the movement of people. So people could not gather together, people could not have agitations, they could not have meetings. So nobody could protest against this also. Last and the most important one was suspension of the habeas corpus right. So now all those who are logged into this session class 10 would have studied in class 9 what is an habeas corpus writ. A habeas corpus writ issued by the Supreme Court or the High Court of the country is a writ which prevents illegal detention. So if somebody is illegally detained, you can go to the court and the court can get them released. Now, if you suspend that right, it means that you cannot even approach the court to find out what has happened to the person who has been arrested. So now connect the dots. Arrest a person without warrant, in camera trial where nobody gets to know what happens, restrictions on the movement of people so that nobody protests about this, and suspension of habeas corpus, which means in effect that you will not be allowed to go to the court also to seek justice. So, no doubt this was a black act. So, people protested against this. Many Indians were arrested under this act. The freedom that we enjoy today is the sacrifice of all of these people, nameless people, ordinary people who did extraordinary sacrifices to ensure our country becomes free. So, many people were arrested and many suffered under this act. So, this became the second cause for the non cooperation movement. So, now let us go on to the third a third cause. This cause shook the conscience of the nation. People were shocked. The Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, rightly named a tragedy, a peaceful crowd had gathered. It was a peaceful crowd listening to a speech to protest against the arrest of leaders who had actually been arrested under the Rowlatt Act only. Now, this place had only one exit. General Dyer closed that exit, and the troops fired, killing almost 1,000 innocent people. This massacre became a cause for the non cooperation movement. Last year, it was the 100th anniversary of the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. This tragedy shook the nation. Harmless, innocent people were shot dead just for being there and listening to a speech. These three causes now led to the non cooperation movement. The non cooperation movement had many programs. Now, what were the programs that were there in the non cooperation movement? What did people actually do during this program? Because protest, if you go there, if you fight, you understand how it goes. But when I say it was a non violent protest, how did people protest then? What did they do? Twofold: boycott, Swadeshi. Boycott what? They boycotted schools and colleges of the British. They boycotted all the foreign goods. They surrendered or gave back the titles of the British government. Many great people like Rabindranath Tagore, all of them surrendered the titles of the British government. They said, "We don't want the honor that you have given us." When you boycott foreign goods, it follows that you need to have an Indian alternative. Now, what was the Indian alternative? Swadeshi. What was Swadeshi? Khadi, which is popular even today. Khadi was popularized. Now, because they boycotted the schools of the British, they had to establish Indian schools. So, national schools and universities were established during this period. And removal of untouchability, one more favorite project of Gandhi was to ensure that these people come into the mainstream. So, this program did not just want to protest against the British, it also wanted to reform Indian society, make it better. Removal of untouchability and upliftment of women. Women also became part of this movement. They were given major roles. In some parts of the country, women led the movement. So, this was how the non cooperation movement continued. When this was continuing peacefully, something happened which made the movement to end. The movement was suspended. Why it was suspended? Let us see. Suspension of the non cooperation movement. The non cooperation movement was suspended because of the Chauri Chaura incident. Chauri Chaura is the name of a small village in the Gorakhpur district of Uttar Pradesh. What had happened was on the fateful day of February 5th, 1922, that is 2 years after this movement began, many peasants marched to the police station. They were actually peacefully protesting against a police officer who had earlier beaten up volunteers who were peacefully picketing a liquor shop. Now, when this peaceful protest was happening, the police fired at the crowd. And this enraged the demonstrators. This peaceful protest no longer remained peaceful. The people dragged the 22 policemen, locked them up in the police station, and burned the police station down. It was a spontaneous, violent action, but this shocked Gandhiji. He said, "This is not how I had visualized this movement. This is not how I want the movement to go on." So Gandhi was so shocked that he withdrew the non cooperation movement. Overnight, this movement was withdrawn. Many in the Congress also protested. They said it's a random act, let us not decide to withdraw the movement because of that. But Gandhi was adamant. He said, if it doesn't go on the principle of non-violence, I would not want to be part of it. And the respect that people had for Gandhi made them agree to his decision. So Gandhi not only withdrew this movement, and for some years he withdrew from the political scene of the country also and concentrated on his social reforms. So shocked was Gandhi that after this it took him many more years to begin another movement. So the movement was suspended, and this movement was short lived, but it had a great impact on the Indian society. So let us now see what was the impact of this movement, the impact of non cooperation movement. The national movement now became a mass movement. I told you everybody was involved in it. That was the speciality of Mahatma Gandhi. Anything he said, the country followed. He was one man who could lead everybody, unite everybody. So it became a huge mass movement. Everybody, women, children, caste, creed, religion, all forgotten people became part of this mass movement. It also gave a lot of confidence for the Indians. Now they felt they were all united. We can challenge the British. If not for the suspension of the movement, the British were not able to put down this movement. We ourselves withdrew. Otherwise, it was not possible for the British to challenge us at that time. So Indians felt very confident. And Congress became a revolutionary organization. It became more revolutionary in the sense that it had to organize so many meetings, so many mass revolutions in different places. The whole country was part of it. So Congress had a major role in organizing revolts and revolutions everywhere in the country. And because it had to happen peacefully, it was a bigger challenge. Merging this movement with the Khilafat movement already, I told you, led to a lot of unity between the Hindus and the Muslims. The Muslims felt the Hindus were fighting for their cause, and both of them together fought for the cause of the country. And as it is evident that boycott led to Swadeshi, many new industries were set up. Any Indian industries manufacturing goods in India, made in India, many industries were set up. And it also helped promote social reforms for removal of untouchability. You know what Gandhi would say? The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. He meant when you lose yourself in the service of others, you find your own self. So many people went ahead and worked towards the removal of untouchability, Harijans as he called them. This also led to a spread of nationalism. The whole country was now filled with nationalism. India was there on everybody's mind. A united country fighting a colonial power. It also popularized the Swaraj cult, not just in India, it had an influence all over the world also. The fact that the country wanted to become free. And for the first time, people realized the importance of passive resistance. It's not required for us to throw bombs, it's not required for us to have lathis. We can peacefully also protest and have some kind of an impact. And last but not the least, the impact, it fostered a spirit of sacrifice. Now, children, when I speak about non-violent protest, it takes a lot for a person to go through it. It takes a lot of sacrifice because it is not that the other side, which is having repressive measures, the British also followed it. They were keen on ending this movement. So they used all repressive measures, whether it was the lathis, whether it was arrests, whether it was torturing them in the prisons. You had to put up with it and not protesting against it. That requires a lot of courage. The spirit of sacrifice. Gandhi, to quote one more Gandhi's quote, he would say, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the virtue of the strong. To forgive whatever the other person is doing to you and still put up with it for the sake of the nation, it has requires a lot of spirit of sacrifice. So that was also an impact. So this was now the impact of the non-cooperation movement. We have studied the causes, the program, the suspension, and the impact. Now, what was the next movement which Gandhi led? The civil disobedience movement. If you see the time frame, 1920, 1930, a lot of gap in between. As I told you, Gandhi was also arrested during this time. For 6 years, he was imprisoned, and after 2 years, because he fell sick, he was released. And then he engaged himself in social reform. So it took a long time to launch another movement, the civil disobedience movement. That was non-cooperation, this was disobedience. So there's a lot of difference between the two. In the first one, you just paralyzed the government. In the second, you broke certain rules and regulations of the government. Now, there are only two causes when it comes to the civil disobedience movement, the Simon Commission and the declaration of Purna Swaraj at Lahore session of 1929. Now, what was the Simon Commission? The Simon Commission was a commission set up by the British to study the need for further reforms, constitutional reforms in India. Now, if you need to study the need for reforms in India, who should be involved in it? The Indians. But unfortunately, this commission did not involve any Indians. There were seven all British. It was called all white commission. The Indians felt very insulted by this and felt it was a deliberate attempt of the British to exclude the Indians and insult them. So the Simon Commission became a big protest. Everywhere people held banners saying Simon go back. They held protests, and this also led to a great tragedy, the death of one of the tallest leaders of India, Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai was so badly beaten that he succumbed to his injuries. And before he died, he said, "Every blow of lathi on my head is a nail in the coffin of the British." How true. His death, after that, not many years did we have the British rule in India. So the death of Lala Lajpat Rai also was the biggest tragedy during the Simon Commission protest. So everywhere people protested, everywhere there were agitations, and people wanted this commission not to function because it did not involve any Indians. Now the second one, Declaration of Purna Swaraj at the Lahore session of 1929. In the Lahore session of the Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the president of that particular session, in declared the objective of was just self-government under British rule. They did not want freedom. They just wanted to be part of the government. Now they said, we want Purna Swaraj or full independence. This was declared in the Lahore session. And in 1930, the first Purna Swaraj Day was also celebrated, which happened to be January 26th. So every year till we got independence, January 26th was celebrated, children, as the Purna Swaraj Day. After we got independence in August, we decided to bring our constitution into force on that particular day. It was implemented on that particular day. That's the significance of January 26th. So now the Congress had its aim as full independence, total independence. And the Simon Commission and Declaration of Purna Swaraj began the civil disobedience movement. So how did this movement begin? What was the Simon Commission? The Dandi March was how the civil disobedience movement The Dandi March was a protest by Gandhi against the salt laws of the British government. The British had taxed the salt, and that was affecting a lot of people. We can survive without anything, but salt is an essential thing that we all want, an essential ingredient. So, the civil disobedience movement, Gandhi felt he should attack the salt laws. So he began the civil disobedience movement with the Dandi March. On 12th March, from his Sabarmati ashram, he walked all the way to Dandi, a village on the Gujarat sea coast. He began with a few followers, and by the time he reached Dandi, he had a sea of followers. Everybody followed Gandhi. And this act, this picture that you see of Gandhi bending down to pick up the salt left behind by the ocean waves is the most powerful picture of Indian freedom movement. It is symbolic of India's protest against the salt laws of the British government. And it took him almost a month. This happened on 6th April when he picked up the salt left behind by the oceans, thus defying the law of the British that people near the sea coast could not make their own salt. They had to buy from the British and had to pay tax for it. So this marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement became very popular. Everywhere people left their practices, left their schools and colleges. They gave up everything near and dear to them. gave up everything that was very precious to them to fight for the country. I remind you again, children, we owe them a lot. So now, when this movement was at its peak, it was suspended again. Shall we understand why it was suspended? It was suspended because of the Gandhi Irwin Pact. Now, what was this Gandhi Irwin Pact? When the movement spread everywhere, the British government was alarmed. If they did not do anything now, the movement showed no signs of stopping. So, how do you stop this? What do you do to stop this? So, they decided that some compromise had to be worked on. Some compromise which would make Gandhi agree to suspend this movement. Now, see that both the times a compromise only made us get back, go behind, and not continue with the movement. The British otherwise could not control it. Indians were very powerful during both the agitations. So now they said, we will sign a pact. So Lord Irwin and Gandhi signed a pact which is known as the Gandhi Irwin Pact. Now, this pact was a compromise where the British said, we will walk two steps, you walk two steps. Let us have a compromise. So, now what did the British government agree to under this pact? Let us now see what the British government agreed to. The British government agreed under this pact to they agreed that they would allow people near the sea coast to make their own salt. Can we move on, please, to the terms of the Gandhi Irwin Pact? They would allow people near the seashore to make their own salt. They would give back the confiscated properties of all the satyagrahis that had been confiscated during the movement. Many satyagrahis, their property, the British had confiscated. They said, we will give it back to you. And also, we will allow peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign cloth shops. What it is picketing, children? Where you surround the shop and not allow it to function, but you don't destroy their property, nor do you act violently. It's just a peaceful way of protesting. And also, they said they would release all political prisoners, all of them who had been arrested during this movement, except those who were guilty of violence. Anybody who was not violent, anybody who did a peaceful protest, we will release all of them. They also said we will withdraw all ordinances and end prosecutions. So they agreed to quite a lot. What did they agree to? Withdraw all ordinances, release all political prisoners except those guilty of violence, permit peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign clothes shops, restore the confiscated properties of all the satyagrahis, permit free collection of salt of people living near the seacoast. So they agreed to quite a lot. Now, after this, let us see what the Congress agreed to. The Congress also had to agree to something. This was a compromise that both the sides made. Now comes why this movement was suspended. The Congress agreed. Can we have the slide, please? The Congress agreed that they would end the civil disobedience movement. Gandhi agreed to suspend it for the time being and also agreed to attend the second roundtable conference. So he said, I will attend the second roundtable conference and I'll also suspend the civil disobedience movement. So there's a difference between the word suspend and the word end. Gandhi did not end the movement, he just suspended it. So the movement was suspended. And also he agreed to represent India in the second roundtable conference. They also agreed not to press for investigation into the atrocities that had happened during that time. So what did the Congress agree to? Three things, three major things which led to a turn in the movement. They agreed to suspend the civil disobedience movement. They agreed to attend the second roundtable conference with Gandhi representing the country. And the third, but not the least, is they agreed not to press into investigation into the police atrocities that had been committed during the movement. So now that we know what both of them agreed to, both the Congress and the British agreed to these terms. So now it's there on the screen: suspension of civil disobedience, participation in second roundtable conference, and no demand for investigation into police atrocities. So now both the sides had agreed upon something. So keeping up with his side of the bargain, Gandhi attended the second roundtable conference. So, what happened in the second roundtable conference? Let us move on and see what happened there. Gandhi went there and put across his demand for total independence. He said, we need a responsible government and independence. He, however, if you look at that photograph there, Gandhi looks so unique sitting among all of them. He was the sole representative, as I said, the only representative of the Congress. He went there, and when he demanded for a responsible government and independence, nobody heard him. Everybody was having their own points to put across. There was a discussion of separate electorates. The British wanted to sanction it. Gandhi was against it. Then it got stuck there. There was a deadlock there. And it did not discuss anything else, anything that Gandhi wanted. Gandhi had gone there with the hope that there could be a peaceful settlement of the demands that India had. When he came back, he also wanted to present a 11-point demand to the Viceroy. The Viceroy refused to meet him. So Gandhi realized that this was a futile attempt. I have put in red over there empty handed. He returned to India empty handed. He got nothing that he wanted. So once he came back to India, he decided to do the civil disobedience movement. So now, children, if you get a question on this, why was it renewed? It was such an important movement. It was such an important movement and attend the second roundtable conference. Why was it renewed? It was renewed because when he attended the second roundtable conference, nobody heard Gandhi's demands. Gandhi came back to India empty handed. He was refused an interview with the Viceroy also. And so he decided that he would renew the civil disobedience movement. So these were now the two movements that Gandhi led. Now, what was the third one? The third one now was the Quit India movement. The Quit India movement, again, if you see the time frame, after 1930 till 1942. 1942, the Quit India resolution was passed. Now it has only two causes. One, the failure of the Cripps mission and the Japanese threat. What was the Cripps mission and why was it there and why did you think it failed? The Cripps mission, because at that time, 1942, what was happening in the world? Yes, the Second World War. That was the time of the world wars. And as I told you, history of India cannot be studied in isolation. For that matter, history of any part of the world cannot be studied in isolation because every event has many events connected to it. And there are events happening at the same time during the same time all over the world. So you need to understand the impact of all of it. And for India, it was all the more important because we did not have an independent history. We were a colony, and everything that happened in the world impacted Britain and it impacted India too. So during this time, Cripps mission was sent because Japanese army was approaching towards India, and the Congress had decided that India would not be part of the Second World War. The Second World War, as we all know, was a fight against dictatorship, a fight to establish democracy and freedom of the people. And how could a colony fight for the freedom of some other country? How could a colony fight against the dictatorship of some other country? So the Congress said, when we ourselves are a colony, we do not want to be part of this. So there was a deadlock between many Congress ministries also had resigned by that time. So there was a deadlock, and the British government was getting desperate. They needed India's help to fight this war, and they needed to find some way in which this deadlock would break. So they brought in what was called as the Cripps mission. Now, the Cripps mission made some concessions for us. It said we would grant freedom in some near future. So the terms and conditions, of course, are not part of your scope, but these were not enough to satisfy Indians. It was a promise made for a future which looked uncertain. Gandhi called it a post-dated check of a failing bank. So if you don't know if the bank is going to survive 3 months from now, and I take a check, post-dated check, which will be effective 5 months from now, what is the use of it? So as he called it was a post-dated check of a failing bank. When Britain was so uncertain about its own future in the war, how could it promise India in some future independence, not total that too, some kind of reforms? Everybody rejected it. Some because it did not talk totally of Pakistan and partition, some because it somewhere hinted at a division of the country, Overall, all the parties rejected the Cripps mission. The failure of the Cripps mission became the first cause for the Quit India movement. Next was the Japanese threat. As I told you, Japan was approaching India. Japan was fighting on the other side during the war and it was attacking all the colonies of Britain. And India also happened to be a colony. India did not have any war or any problem with Japan. The problem was between Britain and Japan. But India, as I told you, cannot be studied in isolation. It was a colony, so it was directly impacted. So when Japan was approaching India, again to quote Gandhi, he said, the presence of British in India is a bait to the Japan to attack us. So if you remove this, then Japan will not attack us. So the approach of the Japanese became one of the causes for the Quit India movement. Now remember, this was also one of the last causes of one of the last movements of India. After this, there was no major movement till we got independence. So these two causes now were powerful enough, and on August 8th, they implemented the Quit India resolution. Gandhi also gave his famous mantra, do or die, fight or die. Die in the process of getting your country its freedom. The freedom that you and I enjoy today, sacrifices of these nameless, faceless people, the sacrifices of these ordinary men, women, and children. We owe them, as I told you, a lot because this movement was the repressive measures used by the British government were very severe in this movement. People were beaten up, they threw bombs from the air, so much that everybody felt that this movement is either going to result in India's freedom or if it doesn't, it's going to be devastating. Do or die, the mantra that everybody followed during Quit India movement. So these two causes led to the Quit India movement. Now, what was the significance or the impact of the Quit India movement? How did this movement impact us? Now, let us study the first one. It demonstrated the determination of people to stand up against the sacrifices, especially in a non-violent protest. The sacrifices are very high. People have to endure a lot of pain when they protest in the non-violent way because the other side, as I told you, the British did not. So you can imagine the kind of suffering that people went through. It showed great capacity of the people for struggle and sacrifice. It showed great capacity of the people for struggle and sacrifice. I told you it was very evident that people had to show a great capacity to struggle and sacrifice. You get beaten up by the lathis, but you still sit there. You have to endure the pain. You get arrested, you get thrown into jails, your family lose everything precious to you, goes away, but you still endure it. You still don't retaliate. And that requires a lot of courage. Retaliation doesn't require strength. To not retaliate requires a lot of strength. Gandhi, in every movement, in every action of his, in every principle, has demonstrated life lessons for all of us. This learning is eternal. When he says you retaliate only when you are weak, the strong never retaliate. The force of truth comes from struggle and sacrifice. The force of truth, satyagraha. Now it was also clear to the British that they could not rule against the wishes of the people. The people were all so determined. So it was clear that they could not go against the wishes of the people. So they felt, yes, our time is up. And it was a mass uprising involved people from all parts of the world. Everywhere people participated. All during these movements, there are two things, children. One, that they were fighting against the British. Other, that our society also was reforming. We were getting united. During civil disobedience movement, especially the Harijans or the depressed classes were allowed to come into the villages. They were allowed into temples. They were allowed to draw water from the wells which were there in the village. It brought about unity, eliminated the caste system. So any country cannot get freedom when its society is not reformed. Gandhi worked at both. That is why his movement was a success. He did not just focus on sending the British out of India. After the British go out, then what? Our society should be healthy enough to withstand this and go ahead in an independent path. So the mass movement was Gandhi's principles. So now after this, after all these three movements, the Indian national movement now was almost reaching the time where we were getting freedom, the three important movement of Mahatma Gandhi. So let us just recap the whole thing. It began with the non-cooperation movement. We studied the causes of the non-cooperation movement, what programs happened during that movement, suspension of the movement, why the movement was suspended, and then what was the impact of that movement. The next movement, civil disobedience, the two causes of civil disobedience movement, the Dandi March, why the movement was suspended by Gandhi due to the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and why it was renewed again due to the failure of the second roundtable conference. And then we came to the Quit India, the last important movement of India. We studied how Gandhi gave the people the mantra of do and die, how two causes led to the Quit India movement, and what was the impact of this movement. So let us now end this learning session with a quote before we move on to the assignment, a quote of Gandhi, which is very, very relevant to all of you. The future depends on what you do today. So what you do as a student today determines your future. So it's nothing that you decide and say, I will do this after 5 years. What you do today, as of today, will impact what happens to you 5 years from now. So now let us move on to the assignment part. The assignment which has questions which cover this whole chapter. Now, by now you must have understood that the questions which are asked have certain marks allotted to them. And as many marks, that many points have to be written. So do not write lengthy answers in any time. For instance, the first one, name the causes of the non-cooperation movement. How many marks are allotted for it? 3. Now, when I explain to you, how many causes did I give you? 3. Khilafat, Rawl attack, Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. So 3 points, 3 marks. So these 3 points will give you full 3 marks. So please see the marks and then write the number of points. Why did Gandhiji suspend the non-cooperation movement? You can answer this question. This is now an explanatory question. So what do you do when such things come? Like they will not have 1, 2, 3, 4 points. The whole incident has to be described. So in that time, you have to follow some kind of a chronology as to how it happened. What happened? First, there was a protest, Chauri Chaura incident. You have to name the reason first. Name it, put the name there, and then explain. So your explanation should follow a chronological order in the sense that Chauri Chaura, people protested, they were fired at, then they put the policemen into the prison and burnt it down. So you cannot randomly write a cause. So first name it, whether it's, for instance, if whether it's an immediate cause of some lesson that you are going to teach in your class, or whether it's an immediate cause. The same way, Gandhi suspended. Why? Name it. Some marks will be allotted for just naming the reason. So name it and then go on to explain it. Now, why did the Congress boycott the Simon Commission? You already know why the Congress boycotted it. I won't give you the answers of all these assignments. I'm just telling you how to go about it. You will have to go through this session again and then answer these questions. What is the significance of the Lahore session of 1929? Here, you need to write why this becomes significant. What happened in that particular session which makes it significant? Who began the Khilafat movement in India? If it is 2 marks, there will be 2 names or 2 points. Now the sixth one in the next few questions of the assignments, 3 impacts of non-cooperation movement. Here there were many. You can choose any 3. Now when you are studying impacts, children, in your book also you have to study it point wise. Please study every lesson and everything point wise. When you study point wise, there is no one important point and one lesser important point. Any points that you find easier to remember, learn that first. So no one impact is more important than the other, nor will it carry more marks than the other. Now, why did Gandhi suspend the civil disobedience movement? Even for this, it's an explanatory question, but it has a few points. So write it in that chronological order. Why did he renew the movement? The causes of the Quit India. If you see here, I have given only 2 marks. So now you will know that it will have 2 points. Mention any 3 impacts of the Quit India movement. Again, here I told you, remember what is easier for you to remember. At least 4 easy points you remember. There is no order for this, nor is there any important point over here. So now, can we have any questions that you have regarding this lesson? I'll be ready to take them. Who persuaded Gandhi to return to India? Like, who was responsible for the Mahatma to come back to India? Gandhi was leading agitations in South Africa. At that time, Gopal Krishna Gokhale went there, offered his support to him, and also was part of some of his struggles. And then he persuaded Gandhi to come back to India. That is why he is also known as the political mentor of Gandhi. But unfortunately, when the Gandhian era began in 1950, Gokhale was no more. So Gokhale, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the political mentor of Gandhi, persuaded him to return to India. Okay, why did Bapu decide to merge the non-cooperation movement with the Khilafat movement? That's a nice name that we call him by Bapu, the father. I have already told this to you. The non-cooperation movement had policies which meant that they would not cooperate with the British on any front. Khilafat movement also said we will not cooperate with the British on any of the activities, that we would boycott everything British. So both had similar causes, both had similar objectives. So Gandhi felt that if it was merged and together if they protested against the British, it would be more stronger. The protest would be more stronger. That is why he decided he will merge both of it, so that there is a unity in the country, and the British will find it difficult to fight both of them together. Otherwise, if you remember, the British were always using divide and rule policy to rule over India, Hindus against the Muslims. So now, if we are united, it would defeat the purpose of the British. Why did people protest against the Simon Commission? As I told you, it was a 7-member committee, all British. All of them were British. Indians were neither involved nor consulted. So this was a direct insult to the Indians, because at that time the Congress was also fighting elections, legislative elections, part of the provincial government. So when it came to involve a single Indian, not to involve a single Indian was such an insult to the Indians. So that is why they were protesting against it. As I said, unfortunately, it resulted in the death of Lala Lajpat Rai. Peaceful protests, but they were beaten up very badly. Why did the British form the Cripps mission? As I told you, the Second World War was happening, and Indian. If you make a project on it, you will have many pages of project where you find Indian role in the world wars. Indians led the world war. They went and fought in places which were very, very dangerous. In fact, Indian soldiers have contributed a lot to both the world wars. So World War II was happening, and Congress was not in favor of sending Indian troops to fight the British for the British side. So what happened was many Congress ministries resigned also. They protested. They said, we don't want to be part of this war. How can you expect our soldiers to fight against dictatorship when we ourselves are a colony? So for that, the deadlock had to be resolved. The British wanted India's help. It wanted India's men, resources, support, all of it. So that is why they brought in the Cripps mission, so that somewhere a compromise could be reached. When and where was the Quit India resolution adopted? It was adopted in July, but it was brought into force in Mumbai on August 8, 1942. Who began the Khilafat movement in India? There are many other names associated with it, but it is enough for you to know that the Ali brothers began it. So if you get a question like this in the boards also, please write Ali brothers first. Then you can expand and write Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. So Ali brothers, they were the ones who began this agitation first in India. How many roundtable conferences? 3 happened. In the first one, Congress did not participate. It boycotted the first roundtable conference. And though the other parties of India attended, the British realized it was futile to have a roundtable conference without India's biggest political party being part of it. That is why they wanted Gandhi to attend the second roundtable conference. They bought in some kind of a pact, the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and made some kind of a compromise so that Gandhi would attend it. So after the bitter experience of second roundtable conference, third roundtable conference also was boycotted by the Congress. 3 sessions happened. Why was there a gap of 10 years between non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement? I told you the non-cooperation movement ended on a very bitter note. A very violent act, no doubt spontaneous and random, but it hurt Gandhi so much. He realized when you involve so many people to ensure was a huge Herculean task. And at that time, Gandhi was also arrested and imprisoned for 6 years. After 2 years, his health failed so much that they had to release him. But then Gandhi decided that he needed to strengthen the society more, change the mentality of the people more before he actually began another movement. So that is why there was a long gap. Gandhi withdrew from the national scene for some time. Purpose of the roller attack. At that time, Gandhi was leading a lot of movements. I told you three satyagrahas had also happened. It was a huge movement. And nationalism was, people were organizing many movements. They were planning, they were meeting, they were planning agitations. So to curb nationalism, once they had done it in 1905 by partitioning Bengal, now they wanted to do something which would put people a fear of before becoming part of the national movement. So they brought about this arbitrary Rowlatt Act, the Black Act, to curb the nationalism of the people. How was the non-cooperation movement different from the civil disobedience movement? Okay, there was a major difference between the non-cooperation and the civil disobedience movement. The programs were the same. That is, you gave back all the titles, you protested, you did not attend schools and colleges of the British. All those were the same. But non-cooperation meant that you do not cooperate with the British and thereby you paralyze the government. Civil disobedience meant that you broke certain rules and regulations, some specific rules and regulations, like even the breaking of the salt law. The Dandi March was one such cause. So, non cooperation just meant that you paralyzed the government. Civil disobedience meant that you went ahead and broke certain rules and regulations which were harmful to the people. So, that's the difference between non cooperation and the civil disobedience movement. Who was known as Frontier Gandhi. This is not very much part of your syllabus, but it's nice to know the name. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, known as the Frontier Gandhi. He also used to be called Red Shirts, who helped in the freedom movement and non-violent agitation. He was known as Frontier Gandhi. How did the civil disobedience movement impact the depressed class? The depressed class, the Harijans with whom Gandhi was working, were suffering a lot during this period. Like they were not allowed to get into temples, temples restricted their entry, they could not draw water from the village wells, they could not walk about freely in the society. So, this movement helped in the sense that a lot of work happened towards reforming the society. So for the first time in many towns and villages, people were allowed to go to the temples. For them, it meant a big deal. Society was allowed to draw water from the village wells. They no longer were allowed to get into temples. So this movement helped in the sense that a lot of work happened towards reforming the society. So they became part of the mainstream. The next question, please. What was the Kheda Satyagraha? Kheda Satyagraha is not part of your syllabus, but let me tell you because it's one of the most important agitations of Gandhi. Kheda Satyagraha was where in Kheda the peasants were unable to pay the taxes and the British government was forcing them to do so. So Gandhi led an agitation which ultimately led to a compromise and led to a reduction of the taxes that the people had to pay. So he fought for the farmers there. That's the Kheda Satyagraha, a landmark in Indian history, and also when Gandhi became very popular among the masses. He began fighting for them. That's why he could have a direct connect with them. That helped him in the freedom movement later, where he had to lead the whole nation. Now, the last question of the day, how did non-cooperation movement create Hindu-Muslim unity? If you study partition of Bengal or if you study growth of nationalism, you will see how slowly after the Muslim League was formed, the British government was trying to divide the Hindus and the Muslims. Every action of theirs were directed against the Hindus or against the Muslims, thereby creating a divide between the two. Gandhi understood this divide and rule policy of the British, and so what he did was when he understood that Khilafat movement was also protesting against the British, and non-cooperation movement also went that you protested against the British. If you merge two movements which have the same objective, it leads to strengthening the movement. So it led to a lot of unity. The Muslims felt very happy that Hindus were fighting for their cause. Because for the Hindus, it was not impacting them, the occupation of Turkey, but it impacted the Muslims religiously. They felt very happy that the Muslims stood with them for this agitation, and they stood with the country for the freedom movement. So it brought about Hindu-Muslim unity. So with this, we come to the end of this session. So before I conclude, during these unprecedented times of pandemic, let me quote Gandhi once again. He said, "It is health that is the real wealth of man, not pieces of gold and silver." So keep safe and keep healthy. Thank you very much.